and now you shall know him. A stabber in the dark, treacherous to foes, faithless to friends, and a curse unto his kin.
In the archives of Middle-earth, there are many creatures of various sizes and powers, from Ents to trolls to Balrogs to eagles. Today we look at the most notorious names of the dragons, the largest of the dark beings in Middle-earth history. These great worms wreaked havoc across the ages, and their might was the stuff of legends. So let's embark on today's journey. Glaurung, the father of dragons, was the original drake in the legends. He was created by the Dark Lord Morgoth in the First Age, during the Wars of Beleriand that saw the forces of the Noldrin elves fight against the dark forces of Angband. Glaurung was not a dragon of flight and walked on the earth, destroying his foes with his fiery breath. Known as the first of the Uroloki, which were the fire drakes, early in his life, Glaurung fought in the siege of Angband and was eventually pushed back to the Dark Fortress by the Noldrin elves, due to the dragon not being fully grown. Centuries later, Glaurung led a massive force of Balrogs and orcs into the Battle of Sudden Flame. He later played a great part in the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, which was a crushing defeat for the Noldor. In that battle, he killed the Dwarven Lord, Osgiliath. He was capable of speech, and also had the ability to ensnare others with his eyes. Most notably was his encounters with the children of Túrin, whereat Nargothrond, in the First Age, he entranced Turin in a swoon while Finduilas, his love, was taken away by the enemy. He also placed a devastating spell on Túrin's sister Nienor, leading her to wander into the wild with no recollection of who she was or where she was going. This led to the tragic fate of Túrin and Nienor when the two siblings eventually married, for neither of them knew the other at their meeting, and the two fell in love. Glaurung continued to do his master's bidding throughout the years, conquering the elven stronghold of Nargothrond, and eventually meeting Túrin again, where the valiant hero stabbed Glaurung in the belly with the ancient sword Gurthang. Although the dragon was mortally wounded by Túrin, the dragon still had malice to enact on the man when he lifted the spell on Nienor, and the woman threw herself over a cliff from despair. For at the cry of Niniel, Glaurung sired for the last time, and a quiver ran through all his body, and he opened his baleful eyes a slit, and the moon gleamed in them, as gasping he spoke.
Hail, Nienor, daughter of Túrin. We meet again ere we end. I give you joy that you have found your brother at last, and now you shall know him. A stabber in the dark, treacherous to foes, faithless to friends, and a curse unto his kin. Túrin, son of Túrin, but the worst of all his deeds you shall feel in yourself.
This led Túrin to take his own life with the black sword Gurthang. Then he drew forth his sword and said,
Hail, Gurthang, Iron of Death. You alone now remain. But what lord or loyalty do you know, save the hand that wields you? From no blood will you shrink. Will you take Túrin Turambar? Will you slay me swiftly?
And from the blade rang a cold voice in answer.
Yes, I will drink your blood, that I may forget the blood of Beleg, my master, and the blood of Brandir, slain unjustly. I shall slay you swiftly.
Although Glaurung was not able to take flight like the other dragons to follow him, he was a formidable foe to the elves, dwarves, and men of the First Age, and caused a great deal of strife for the enemies of Morgoth. At the conclusion of the First Age was the War of Wrath, which saw Morgoth's horde clash with the Valar and the allies of the Noldor. In this battle, Morgoth thought his greatest advantage would be the release of his winged dragons, of which was the colossal beast Ancalagon. Ancalagon was a dragon of flight, and also the mightiest dragon to ever exist. Although the dragon was immense in power and size, it was not enough to overtake the great eagles and the blessed mariner, Eärendil, who had one of the Silmarils in his possession. Eärendil, aboard his flying boat Vingolot, fought Ancalagon in the sky, alongside the eagles, and the dragon met his doom, falling from the sky and crashing into the peaks of Thangorodrim, above Morgoth's fortress. This collision was so catastrophic, the mountain peaks crumbled around Angband. Many of the dragons were destroyed in the wake of the War of Wrath, but some flew away and hid throughout the earth and survived into the following ages. The Grey Mountains in the northern stretches of Middle-earth was home to a number of dragons, as seen on Thror's map. Far to the north are the Grey Mountains and the Withered Heath, whence came dragons. In the Third Age, another dragon of legend that met a brutal end was named Scatha, a longworm that had taken over a dwarven treasure trove in the area south of the Grey Mountains and east of the Misty Mountains. A man named Fram, one of the Éowyn, the men who eventually founded Rohan in the south, tracked down the dragon Scatha and slew him after the dragon had been causing strife for the men in that region. The Éowyn took the treasures hoarded by Scatha, and one such item, a horn, was passed down through the ages, and at the time of the War of the Ring, was given to the hobbit Merry. Then Éowyn gave to Merry an ancient horn, small but cunningly wrought, all of fair silver with a baldric of green, and writes had engraven upon it swift horsemen riding in a line that wound about it from the tip to the mouth, and there were set runes of great virtue.
"This is an heirloom of our house," said Éowyn. "It was made by the dwarves, and came from the hoard of Scatha the worm. Eorl the young brought it from the north. He that blows it at need shall set fear in the hearts of his enemies, and joy in the hearts of his friends, and they shall hear him and come to him."
Then Merry took the horn, for it could not be refused, and he kissed Éowyn's hand, and they embraced. After 400 years before the War of the Ring, the dwarves of Durin's folk resided in the Grey Mountains and were driven away by dragons. Dane the First, the king at the time, was killed by a cold drake, a dragon that did not breathe fire. The dwarves then relocated to Erebor and the Iron Hills. Another legendary dragon that had a great presence in the Third Age was Smaug the Golden. He was the greatest dragon of fire of the Third Age, and came down from the north and took control of Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, over 200 years prior to the War of the Ring. This terrible incident drove the dwarves of Erebor from their home. Smaug sat on his hoard of gold for over a century, when a quest was begun, led by Thorin Oakenshield, to reclaim Erebor for the dwarves. After encountering a certain hobbit in his domain, Smaug went forth from the mountain, enraged, burning the city of Laketown. It was Bard the bowman that sent an arrow screaming into the dragon's stomach that finally saw the dragon fall to his demise. Smaug was obviously very powerful and deadly, but he also had a very keen mind. Gandalf knew this of the dragon, and because of the wizard's worry that Smaug could eventually fall into allegiance with Sauron, the wizard put the pieces together for Thorin and company to embark on their journey to retake the Lonely Mountain. These immense creatures had many important roles throughout the history of Middle-earth. Their presence was very dangerous and always forced those who came into their presence to conjure the deepest courage within themselves to face these monsters. Dragons have always had a significant place in legends and lore, and Tolkien's use of them in his Legendarium added a great amount of drama, war, and fire. What do you like about dragons? Which of these Middle-earth dragons is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. As always, take care, my friends, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.